It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Well, we're almost at the 3-month mark from the start of the devastating wildfires that destroyed the Pacific Palisades in the Altadena area. And even though we're almost at that 3-month mark, we don't have an official cause for any of those fires, not even the smaller ones that were put out much more quickly. But we are starting to get a few more theories, usually from the attorneys representing the fire victims. And now, attorneys representing Palisades fire victims are alleging that, while the origin of the fire is still not known, it's very possible that a second location in the Palisades sparked up and contributed to the fire, and it might be the fault of the LADWP. You're kidding. Of course, what did we see as soon as the Altadena fire happened, the Eaton fire? Is many different law firms went after SoCal Edison, and SoCal Edison is kind of being like, yeah, it was probably us. So it's not a shock to learn that it's possibly some faulty equipment of the DWP that could have at the very least exacerbated how bad this fire is. For more, here's a report from NBC4.
Is it possible the Palisades fire started not once but twice? Fire victims who filed lawsuits say there's evidence a second wave of fire destroyed their homes, and they say they think there's evidence to show how it started.
And remember that whole other thing about how on New Year's, there was some fireworks that may have started a fire, and that fire may have not been completely out, and that may have also been an issue.
Our investigative reporter Eric Leonard has been tracking developments in this investigation. He joins us live now with an update. Eric.
Hi, Michael. Well, this new theory surfaced this week in one of the lawsuits filed against the city of Los Angeles and the Department of Water and Power. Not only are the fire victims, people who lost homes and businesses here, blaming the DWP for running out of water during the fire, but now they say they believe some energized power lines fell hours after the initial start and created a second emergency.
Oh, no.
News Chopper 4 over the Palisades today, spotting a group of people examining the area where lawyers for fire victims say they believe power lines fell in the high winds and ignited a second fire about 12 hours after the Palisades fire first started.
How long do fire investigations take? I ask because we only hear about these high-profile cases of these massively destructive fires, but we seem to never really go at what the cause was. I mean, we know what happened when the cause was officially blamed by PG&E of the Camp Fire. They went bankrupt until Gavin Newsom bailed them out. But we don't know the cause for the Palisades fire. We don't know the cause for the Eaton fire. We still don't technically know the cause for the fire that melted the 10 freeway. And that was like 2.5 years ago. So how long do these fire investigations take, or do they not want to release that info? I don't know.
In the lawsuit, the attorneys say some burned power poles shown in these photos but since removed appear to match the location where a shower of burning material was captured by a fire watch camera.
And it shows what we believe to be a new fire that started in the exact same location of where those poles snapped and the power lines came down at 10:30 at night.
Attorney Alex Robertson now represents hundreds of Palisades fire victims, and he says the timing of that fire watch image aligns with the accounts of many residents who've said they saved their homes by extinguishing embers from the first wave of fire on January 7th, only to lose their homes early the next morning after a second line of fire went through the neighborhood.
Oh, that's interesting. So the fire area went through you, and fires don't usually circle back unless it was a second fire started in the same location by potential DWP equipment.
After a second line of fire went through the neighborhood.
We have video taken by several of them of this wall of fire, and it's coming exactly from the location of where those broken power poles and down power lines were that we found 2.5 months earlier.
I mean, how many times do we have to hear the same story over and over again? This is the first time it's been this devastating in Southern California, but the entire state. Faulty power lines, faulty electrical equipment, high winds. We see it over and over and over and over again, but our local electeds and the utilities, whether it is the municipal utilities like DWP or the private utility monopolies like SoCal Edison and PG&E and San Diego Gas and Electric, they throw their hands up in the air and say it just would be too darn expensive to underground all the power lines. I doubt it.
Robertson says he hiked up the hill the day after the fire and found the downed lines and poles. The DWP initially said power circuits in the area were de-energized long before the Palisades fire, which was reported in the Washington Post in early January. But after Robertson says he pressed for clarification, he says lawyers defending the DWP told him, in fact, those circuits were electrified on the day of the fire.
Buried in a...
Oh, that's interesting. Once again, and very similar to what was going on with SoCal Edison, we're hearing a little utility doublespeak where they say publicly, oh, it couldn't have been our equipment. But then in a legal filing, they say, oh, it could have been our equipment.
Buried in a footnote on the last page of the letter from the lawyer, they said, well, regarding DWP's statement to the Washington Post that the lines had been abandoned and de-energized, it was a misunderstanding. Actually, the lines were energized on the day of the fire.
That's not good. Because that thing blew down, and that thing could have been sparking everywhere else and causing a second fire in the fire zone.
The DWP confirmed to NBC4 this week the lines were energized at the time the fire started, and it showed the energized lines in this photograph, which appear to be the same lines and poles Robertson described in the lawsuit. The DWP said in a statement that fire investigators have not asked to examine any of its lines or equipment.
Well, why would that be? I mean, there might be a conflict of interest here because it's a city-owned municipality and it's the city fire department doing the investigating. I don't know. But that would be the first place. I mean, fires don't just start. I mean, we don't have like wild lightning that you see in places like Northern California. So fires start mostly in Southern California for two reasons. One, a faulty piece of utility equipment blows over because of high wind. We've seen plenty of that, and that very well likely might be what started the Eaton fire and now apparently the Palisades fire. And number two, the homeless. We know how many fires are started by homeless people in the city of Los Angeles every day, and the number is insane. So which one of the two is it? We haven't heard any other explanations for how these fires are starting.
That no DWP lines pass over the area where the Palisades fire first started, and says it took other precautionary measures with electric lines before and during the fire.
Yes, but if it started again in a second location and that caused even more devastation, especially to the houses that already had defended themselves, and then it went back at them again, that's an issue.
Robertson says even if the Palisades fire initially started in a completely different way, he says the city could be responsible if there's evidence to prove a second ignition.
Under the law, DWP can be liable even if they were a concurrent cause. They don't have to be the sole cause of the fire.
As long as their equipment contributed partly to the devastation, they might be on the hook. Which is an interesting thing to say because it's a municipally owned utility, so we're on the hook for it.
Now, at this point, we should point out no official cause has been announced, and fire investigators have not said if the theory described in the lawsuit is even being examined. The DWP says it's cooperating with the official investigations, both into the cause of the Palisades fire and the failure of the water system. Back to you.
Yeah, there's also that whole thing. Why was the reservoir empty? Why was it not worked on for over a year? How is it that fire hydrants did not have water?
Hey, Eric, before we let you go, there's a development on the story you reported last night about Mayor Bass's text messages as the fires were starting. What have you learned?
Right. Oh, yeah, then there's that whole thing. Karen Bass first says, I don't know what happened to my text messages. They automatically delete. Then she gets sued by places like the LA Times over hiding her records, and the story looks terrible. So somehow they magically find the text messages, except all the text messages that they find are not super related to what we want to hear about. We want to see what she was communicating with the fire chief with. We want to see what she's communicating with Marquise with, who was in charge of the city. But instead, she sent us text showing that it was Monica Rodriguez's birthday and she was going to get flowers.
Right. So the LA Times went to court and filed something called a writ of mandate, which is a lawsuit that asks a judge to order another party to follow the law. And in this case, the LA Times is alleging that the city hall staff, the mayor's staff, aren't following the law in responding to public records requests. You may remember that early on, lots of people were asking officially for copies of mayor's text messages and emails and records that the city had, because there is a question that a lot of people are asking about how well or not well the response and preparations to the Palisades fire went.
They did not go well.
And some of these messages might help us all understand what went on. Initially, the mayor's office said they didn't have any text messages. They'd all been destroyed. And then, as we reported yesterday, the office said, well, we've come up with those messages. Now the Times is suing, saying this raises even more questions about City Hall record keeping. They want a judge to get involved to order City Hall to produce more records if they exist.
Yeah, they definitely redacted a whole bunch of texts and didn't send us nearly what people thought they were going to get. And what are they hiding now? Another day that doesn't look good for Karen Bass.
All right, so much to get to. And folks want to dive a little deeper on these topics. Talk about your new podcast.
Yeah, it's called The Leonard.
Oh, yeah, Eric Leonard has a podcast. Good for him. Eric Leonard, who is an incredible investigative reporter at NBC4, really got his chops going back at KFI, was one of two of the best investigative reporters I ever worked with, Eric Leonard and Steve Gregory, when I worked over there. And he's doing great at NBC4, especially since they lost Joel Grover. This is the face of the I-team right here, and he does an incredible job. Now, let's hear about those text messages that Karen Bass sent out on a Friday and see if any of them are relevant. Here's Fox 11.
After 2 months of requests, those texts were finally released this afternoon. Take a look. Before the LA wildfires spiraled out of control, Mayor Karen Bass, who was on a diplomatic trip in Ghana, was briefed by her...
She was at a party. She was dancing the night away.
Trip in Ghana was briefed by her deputy chief of staff about 2 significant fires burning in the city. Less than an hour later, she received a chilling text update. Palisades fire is now 200 acres. An evacuation order is being prepared to go out. And Crawley said homes will be lost soon. From there, messages kept coming, alerting the mayor in real time as the city faced its worst wildfire in recent history. Unofficial estimate is 200 homes burned. In a separate text exchange, Senator Adam Schiff wrote, "The fires are just awful. Please let me know whatever I can do to help."
What can you do, Adam Schiff?
The mayor responded, "Thanks so much. I'm actually in the air, headed home from Ghana. I think I mentioned I attended the inauguration."
Was she sending pictures of the party to Adam Schiff before?
"I am following it while I make my way home, but I know disaster aid will be needed, especially given the challenges with homeowner insurance in this specific neighborhood. I land in the AM."
I like how just a wrinkle of a text that she casually sends to Adam Schiff while she's on the plane back from Ghana is, oh yeah, all the people the houses are burning down, they all just recently got dropped by State Farm.
"I land in the AM. I would like to be in touch by late afternoon after I've had a chance to see what is happening." The mayor sent this message to LAUSD Superintendent Alberto Carvalho. "How are you doing? I'm still in the air, land at LAX shortly, hopefully in the next 2 hours. So sorry about Palisades High School. Can't believe it. Any other
sad face emoji. Okay, she didn't actually put emojis, as far as I know.
Any other schools in danger? Are you closing any schools out of precaution? Unbelievable." Carvalho responded in part, "Hello, Mayor, we are okay. The sudden change overnight was difficult, but we managed. We closed 6 schools in the Palisades area yesterday."
We didn't know if we were going to get them at all.
The whole city is on fire. People are running around trying to figure out what to do, and they got to keep answering Karen Bass's texts of, "What's going on? I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Is everything okay? I'm almost there."
We didn't know if we were going to get them at all.
Julia Wick with the LA Times, who spoke with Alex Michelson, points out that many requested texts were redacted.
We don't know what we don't have. For instance, there's no text messages included with Council President Marquise Harris Dawson, who was the acting mayor.
Why? What are they hiding there?
at the time during this kind of pivotal, crucial period in time.
She either wasn't in contact with him at all, which would be strange because she left him in charge, or they don't want to share that. That's not looking good. You got to be 100% transparent here or people will not trust you. Even though there's nothing nefarious going on, doesn't look right, doesn't smell right.
At the time during this kind of pivotal, crucial period in time. So that would be, for instance, really relevant to know if they weren't texting at all. That seems problematic.
Some of the texts were redacted, while others captured lighter moments, like a reminder that it was City Councilor Monica Rodriguez's birthday.
Yeah, I don't know why they sent that one. What exactly are you trying to tell us? So you don't send us the relevant text, but you let us know that you were going to get flowers for Monica Rodriguez.
The mayor responded with
who later would become the largest and loudest critic of Karen Bass firing the fire chief for making her look bad.
The mayor responded with a single word: flowers. Later, Rodriguez texted back, "Thank you for the flowers. Safe travels." And there are no messages leading up to the days of the fire. And of course, all of that is crucial information because...
Yeah, shouldn't we know that? How about the National Weather Service alert that she said she didn't get?
Crucial information because the mayor has already said, as she told you, Alex, that she didn't know, she was never warned that the weather would be so devastating. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Yeah, we've requested those messages, and we'll see if and when they send them. Gina Silva, thank you for that reporting.
The idea is delay, 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 and send the messages when this is no longer a story. However, this was such a devastating fire, and the recovery is so difficult and something that people are dealing with on a daily basis that I don't think this story's going away anytime soon. And at some point, you can't just keep delaying sending out your public records. You're a public official. The things that you say to other public officials are our business. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Gavin Newsom loves to say that big oil is going to screw you.
Because we chose to screw you.
Big oil is out to rip you off. The reason gas prices are so high in the state of California is because big oil wants Gavin Newsom to look bad. And he has called special session after special session after special session to rein in big oil because they're screwing you over. Well, a new study from USC says not so much. Here is KTLA.
A USC professor says California's high gas prices are the result of state policies and lower production and not price gouging.
Oh, interesting. It's almost like Gavin Newsom makes flashy headlines with no follow-through.
Marshall Business School professor Michael Misch released a report this month detailing why Californians pay so much for gasoline. He identified...
It really is jarring. If you happen to go out of state often, like I do, when I drive around New Mexico, or especially when I drive around Dallas, Texas, and you see gasoline, $2.16 a gallon. And mind you, I have an electric car, so it's not like this matters to me personally, but it's just a feeling. Like, oh gosh, and we're already at $5 again in California? And it's not just the gas tax. There's a whole lot of other things. But unlike what Gavin wants you to think, it's not that there's these mystery surcharges and everything else. A lot of this is the nonsense with cap and trade, which is the money that they use to pay for the high-speed rail to go from Wasco to Merced. Never get it right. I always say Wasco. It just sounds right to me, even though I've been told it's wrong.
He identified 7 factors that have pushed prices higher for decades, most of which have to do with state taxes and environmental regulations. The professor also says that higher labor costs and lower production rates are pushing prices higher at the pump.
I mean, we're chasing a lot of these refineries out of the state, telling them that we're not going to have gas-powered cars in 10 years, whether that makes sense or not, whether the public is there or not. It's almost like we're pushing them to not want to do business here, which then is going to make it more expensive. And then Gavin's whole thing last year, well, the refiners always go down for planned or unplanned maintenance, and then they make a whole bunch of money, which is true. But what's his answer to that? Okay, they have to buy giant storage tanks, and then they need to fill it with oil so the price doesn't spike. Well, They had to buy the big storage tanks, and they passed on the cost to us.
And he expects that trends to continue as we approach California's 2035 target for banning the sale of new gas-powered cars.
There you go. At least one study says Gavin Newsom is full of crap. And I bet you we'll have another study tomorrow that says Gavin Newsom is full of crap. When we come back, an update on the City of Industry RV encampment, because the owner of those RVs says he's the real victim here. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. No story really captured the imagination of living in Southern California last week than the RV homeless encampment in the City of Industry, where apparently there was a lot full of dozens of luxury high-end recreational vehicles and trailers that retailed for $40,000 to $100,000 a year. The homeless moved in, started a bunch of fires because yes, and then as soon as the news crews got there, there were all these questions of the people who were homeless were paying rent to someone, $300 a month to live inside one of these RVs. Some people don't feel safe. Some people are like, I got nowhere else to go. And some people are like, we've been here for 2 years. Where have you been? It's fascinating, right? This has been a problem for quite some time. There's been some bizarre dispute between who owns the lot and the RV company. The people have been living there. There's some shady guy who's been renting out the RVs even though he doesn't own them and cashing in. And all of this was going on. The City of Industry said, well, it's a private matter, nothing we're going to do about it. The County of Los Angeles, including Supervisor Hilda Solis, said, well, it's a city matter, it's nothing we're going to do about it. But as soon as the news crews and the cameras got to the deplorable conditions of the RV camp at the City of Industry, not even a week later, they're cleaning it up and they're evicting all the homeless. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The power of local news is how you get things done in the city of Los Angeles. You try to go through the proper channels. You try to email your representatives. You try to call them, maybe even try to meet with them. They won't do anything. They won't move. If they get publicly shamed on the TV, thanks to our friends at Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 11, well, now all of a sudden, they're going to be working in action. Because only a few days after Hilda Solis said this isn't our problem, the sheriff's department was all of a sudden magically allowed to come in and get these people out of there. But there's another wrinkle to this story, because we had yet to hear from the guy who owns all these RVs, the head of the company. Well, he spoke to KCAL, and I'm still even more confused about this story now. Let's hear what happened.
It's another twist tonight in the saga of a luxury RV company trying to evict a group of squatters who took over a storage lot of campers in the City of Industry. KCAL's Juan Signaris is live there tonight. He spoke to the owner of the RV company who says he's the victim in all of this. Gio.
He's the victim.
Juan, good evening to you. You know, just yesterday we told you about the eviction notice here with LA County Sheriff's deputies telling folks they had to leave within 5 days. We also mentioned the fact that a lot of people told us that they were paying rent to an unknown person.
Yeah, one of the homeless people said, I don't know, it was $300 a month to some Asian guy.
Just to stay here. And at the heart of the entire issue is the trespassing dispute between the owner of that RV company and the property owner. Now, the owner of that RV company told us he is doing his best to resolve all of this.
Okay, what exactly happened here? What was the breakdown, and why were these people living in these places for over a year before anything happened?
Jack Conway Chu is the owner of Black Series RV. He's been renting this parking lot in the City of Industry since 2021, but he says the money wasn't going to the proper landlord.
What? Are you telling me that the guy who owns all the RVs was the victim of a scam himself, and he was paying money to rent this lot to the wrong person? What in the world is going on?
About 12 months ago, someone came in and said, they're the actual landlord. So we've been paying the rent to the wrong guy. The landlord never told us it's the wrong landlord for the last 2 or 3 years.
The property was later occupied.
How does something like this happen?
The property.
You just call and say, hey, I'm the actual landlord. Can you start writing those checks to me?
The property was later occupied by homeless individuals, leading to security and damage issues.
And of course, Lucifer. One of the people was actually named Lucifer, and she was starting fires.
Another one of the issues revolves around squatters paying rent to live in the RVs. Some apparently claim they've been here for weeks. Others say years. We asked Chu if he was the one charging these people rent.
100% no.
Who was it then?
I don't know. We never charge rent, and I told them not to pay any rent to anyone.
The other major dispute.
How many times has he come down to this lot and just been like, can anybody help me? Can somebody help me? They're trashing all my property.
The other major dispute, Chu says, was about the property and the apparent confusion between who he was paying and who was actually in charge of the land. Chu says it was someone who was subleasing to him. It's property.
This is really strange. This kind of reminds me of that whole nonsense with the 10 freeway. You remember when the 10 freeway melted and Karen Bass said it's okay, you can take Metro, and then they never told us who actually burned down the freeway? Well, part of the problem was you had all this incredibly flammable material right under the freeway. And the land owned by Caltrans was leased out to a company who then subleased it to another company that filled it full of a bunch of stuff that wasn't supposed to be there. The world of subleasing, weird, lots of land. Apparently, there's money to be made.
It's property owner / landlord,
right?
And then one below him, that's who you were paying.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. I didn't know that. I didn't know about that.
And also, you as a subleaser are lying and saying you own the property and you can pay me.
And the landlord said the one who subleased to me is not allowed to do that.
The property owners tell us a different story. In an email sent to KCAL News today, a lawyer representing the property owner, Legacy Point LLC, says Black Series placed the trailers on the property without permission and refused to leave, despite cease and desist notices and failed negotiations.
Okay, that's an even weirder allegation. So the company that makes all these RVs that cost so much money didn't want to put them anywhere that they had to pay for it, so they just stuffed them on a lot they didn't own? I'm telling you, whatever the real story is this, I'm so confused.
Chu argues that's not how things played out.
They knew we were always here. It's just we didn't reach agreement with them on, how to rent this property, how to manage this property, how to secure the property. We feel like, we are the victim because there are $5-6 million worth of RVs damaged.
Yes, because when the homeless move in, the fires start. You want to put these people in motel rooms too? See how they destroy those? There was an interesting thing that came out. In San Francisco, one of the things that they did and Los Angeles did as well when COVID happened is they started those Project Room Keys and Project Home Keys, where under the state of emergency, when you have hotels that have no occupancy because of the lockdowns, we're going to put a bunch of hotel people in there. Just in the city of San Francisco, and I'm just trying to remember the number because I remember this from a story I was listening to in the car about a week ago. Just from COVID, the homeless inside those motel rooms caused, I believe it was $70 million worth of damage.
Chu tells us he's going to continue moving his RVs to a new location, or rather multiple new locations, and continue.
Are they still usable?
And continue working with homeless outreach teams. In the meantime, lawyers for the property owners here say they're going to continue legal practices, or rather, they are going to continue legal efforts to reclaim the property. Reporting from the City of Industry, I'm Gio Insignares, KCAL News.
All right, Gio.
That story gets stranger and stranger and stranger by the day, and hopefully we'll have another update tomorrow. As the sheriffs have said, the people who are living there gotta go. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's go to Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy, those conflicts of interest over the fire that you mentioned guarantee that LA taxpayers are on the hook for a massively expensive investigation that's going to have some kind of independent agency involved. Because, look, you've got Mayor Karen Bass goofing off in Ghana and hiding text messages, so nobody trusts her. You've got the DEI queen of DWP, Janice Quinones, who failed 1,000% in her job. Nobody trusts her. And now the fire investigators looking into this come from the same department that Karen Bass underfunded and then decapitated, resulting in a looming lawsuit by the former fire chief. So there's no way anybody trusts anybody. They're going to have to get an independent law firm or something to investigate this.
Is there any confusion as to why the city's broke, Bill?
Right. I mean, and not to mention the fact that not just in Los Angeles, but in the whole Southern California and possibly Northern California, everyone's insurance rates are going to skyrocket because of this huge fire, the damages incurred by all these losses, maybe even nationwide. So, thanks a lot, Karen Bass, for being in Ghana when the whole insurance industry blows up.
Thanks so much for the call, Bill. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Tomorrow is a huge day. Tomorrow is a huge day for this radio station. First of all, the show that I co-host every day from noon to 3, The John Phillips Show, is going live and statewide. We're going to be broadcasting from noon to 3 every day live on KABC in Los Angeles and KSFO in the Bay Area starting tomorrow. Very excited about that. Going live and statewide has been a dream of ours for years now, and it's finally coming true. So make sure you listen to The John Phillips Show every single day from noon to 3. On KABC and KSFO. And, of course, if you're never around noon to 3, you can always get the podcast of that show at KABC.com or search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. But tomorrow is also a notable day because your sales tax is going up in the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles. And if you live in Palmdale, for some reason, even more than anywhere else. That's right. All those tax increases that we voted yes on in November, they start tomorrow. For more, here's NBC4.
Big change that could impact how you spend. Starting tomorrow, the Los Angeles County sales tax is going up. NBC4's Conan Nolan joins us live from the newsroom with what you need to know and why some cities will see even bigger increases. Conan.
That's right, a self-imposed tax increase. Keep in mind.
We did this to ourselves. We did it to ourselves 10 years ago with Measure H, and we decided the county did such a terrible job on homelessness, let's double their budget.
Keep in mind that this is going to have an impact on everything from the price of gasoline to the recovery efforts in Altadena and the Pacific Palisades.
Yeah, 0.25% might not seem like a whole lot, unless you're making major purchases like, rebuilding homes in the Palisades.
On the eve of a countywide self-imposed price hike, signs of buyer's remorse.
Well, if we voted for it, then I guess we're just going to have to do it, but with the prices of everything going up now, we didn't anticipate that when we voted for this.
We didn't anticipate that our prices would go up when we voted to increase our prices. We did this to ourselves. Tried to warn. It was such an interesting election, right? Prop 36 passed overwhelmingly. George Gascon knocked out handily. Measure A? Sure. Here's even more money to not solve the homeless problem.
Well, if we voted for it, then I guess we're just going to have to do it, but with the prices of everything going up now, we didn't anticipate that when we voted for this.
This is an increase in the sales tax throughout Los Angeles County, which was approved by voters last November, from 9.5% to 9.75%. And because that's just the baseline,
By the way, now we are officially 2 percentage points higher than Orange County. If you need to buy a car anytime soon, buy it in Orange County.
And because that's just the baseline, it means other cities within LA County, which had tacked on their own sales tax increase, will now go up even higher. In the Antelope Valley...
I remember very distinctly, we were out in the San Bernardino area for some kind of remote. This might have been when we did that whole thing with Randy Economy in Upland. No, it might have been before that. It might have been something out in Riverside. But I very specifically remember I was starving, So I went to an In-N-Out Burger, and it's probably the first time I've been to an In-N-Out Burger that wasn't in LA County, because this is where I live, and I don't usually venture out. And I remember anticipating that my double animal style with fries light well and a drink was going to come to probably $8.50. And it was like $7.50. I was like, wait, why is this so much cheaper? Oh, the sales tax is way lower here. I mean, it wasn't $1 cheaper, but there was a noticeable difference in the number. And that adds up over time.
In the Antelope Valley, Palmdale and Lancaster to 11.25%, amongst the highest in the nation.
Okay, what the hell is that about? I don't know what the locals in Palmdale and Lancaster were voting on, but are you really going to tell me that in a place that's supposed to be, what did Gavin Newsom say? It's where a middle-class family can buy a home and still have a life, you know, with a 2-hour commute. But why in Palmdale and Lancaster is the sales tax 11%? What is going on? What did you vote yes on, Lancaster and Palmdale?
I don't know what we can do about it, but it needs to change because, I mean, things are already expensive as it is.
The sales tax hike comes as the rate of inflation continues to be a problem for the Federal Reserve. And amongst concerns...
Yeah, I don't understand macroeconomics. I barely understand microeconomics, but I really don't understand why raising the interest rates was really the answer to the whole inflation thing. Because it has made certain things like building in Los Angeles and building in the state of California so onerous and so difficult that housing starts are way below what they were 10 years ago, which means now there's more scarcity of housing, which means it's more expensive to live here. So how exactly did that help?
And
I'll tell you right now, as much as I dream about moving out of the city of Los Angeles, if I somehow was able to work remotely and do that, I couldn't sell this place and buy another one because I'm locked in at 2% here. So I'd have to rent this place out and then go rent somewhere in Santa Fe or wherever I move to. But I can't actually sell this house and go buy another one because I'm not doing 7% interest. I can't afford that.
And amongst concerns, President Trump's new tariff policy on automobiles will also drive up prices.
I did do a little panic shopping yesterday. I don't know how the tariffs are going to affect. I don't know when those prices immediately go into effect. But just on the fear of 25% tariffs on everything coming from Mexico, I spent a lot of money at Total Wine & More on tequila, just in case the price goes up next month. Just had to cover all my bases. I got a whole añejo cabinet now, and I'm going to enjoy myself tonight. Thank you all so much for listening. It's a pleasure to bring you this show every single day. And don't forget, the John Phillips Show expands statewide starting tomorrow, noon to 3 on KABC and KSFO. This is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.